Welcome everyone to the Moon Magic Tarot channel. This is the first thing in the morning Jenny look, so I apologize profusely, but I have literally got out of bed, done my morning meditations. I have a cup of coffee. So for those of you that are relatively new to the channel and perhaps haven't seen me before, so I'm just in the right space and time to be doing this video, so I'm just going to do it. Now, this is the moon forecast for the coming week. And what you may have been finding, so the previous week, the week I'm about to do is from Saturday the 20th to Saturday the 27th. I've got my little notes here. We have a new moon in a week's time. So the moon is diminishing in size. Her energy is becoming more gentle. She's also inviting kind of a space of internal processing, consolidation, review, ready for the new moon energy, which is always a surge of openings and potential for us to sort of reset ourselves. Now, what you may have found over the last week, there's been a lot of what I would call background noise. Now, my interest is very much in the lunar energy that affects us on a daily basis, how we actually navigate that, how we are affected personally and individually. If you are wanting a much more in-depth astrological view of the week, there are a ton of amazing astrologers out there who are going to give you that information. That's not me. I'm going to talk about the key things that leap out to me, and also the way that the moon is interacting with those energies. That's really my personal kind of interest, because the moon is our satellite, and just like the satellites that we put up into the sky ourselves, they receive information and they send it back down to Earth. That's what they do. The moon does this as well. She receives information, she gathers light from the sun and she redistributes it to the Earth. And in a way, she receives information and she channels it back down here to us, and we are then influenced by that, whether we're aware of it or not. In my experience, the more aware we are of it, the more empowered life becomes, because we make far more conscious choices as we navigate through our lives. So last week, there was a lot of what I would call astrological background noise. There was a ton of stuff, some of which was quite discordant. It wasn't that happy kind of fitting together of stuff. And the way that the moon interacted with that energy means that what you may have found over the last week is that lots of things were kind of brought to the surface. Maybe fears, anxieties, not just those kinds of things or circumstances that we need to look at, bringing stuff to light, to your attention. Not so much in a glaring way, although for some of you that may have happened, more in a way that allowed us to then notice how we ourselves are responding to that incoming energy or those actual circumstances. So it's like something happens and you then get to notice your own, almost like your own kind of thinking patterns around it, your own autopilot responses. And the purpose of this, because there's always a purpose, is to be able to adjust literally the way that you navigate, the way that you manage your autopilot responses, so they cease to be on autopilot ultimately. So we've had a kind of a week of absolute opportunity that's allowed us to be able to process these kinds of challenges which sit within us. That, sometimes we'll get external challenges, but it's never the something itself, it's the way that we deal with it, really. So we've had a kind of a week of that. In the coming week, if I'm honest, looking at the overall sort of astrodynamics and the way the moon is moving in the coming week, I think it's going to be quite emotional. I think there's going to be quite a lot of emotionality. So it may be that some of the things that have happened this week, even your identification of attitudes or circumstances, or a shift in actual circumstances for some of you, that will now begin to take place and move forwards. As we shift forwards, and we need to, I think, if we're going to use this energy well, apply ourselves gently to the coming week. But as we shift into that zone, I think we will feel something of the emotionality of letting go, whenever we create a shift, whenever there's a transition, it's always accompanied by elements of almost sadness, because if we're leaving behind a chapter of life that was amazing, or we're shifting into a new zone, there's a sadness at what we are moving away from. If we have had challenges and difficult times and we can't wait to get to something new, there'll still be sadness, because we have sadness over the fact that something was really difficult. It didn't work out perhaps as we'd hoped. So that's the kind of level of energy that we're going to see, I think, a little bit of a shift if we have been actively and consciously working in the last week to identify the way that we navigate things and to begin to think about how we're going to do it differently. As we move forwards and we act on that, we take actions, and things begin to shift and move. This week, we feel the emotionality of that, and we get to sort of process the reality of how we are now going to try to rethink or do it differently or approach it differently or change our perspective. So we're going to have an underlying element of emotionality, both maybe with some anxiety and excitement, tinged with excitement about stepping into the new, a lot of anticipation. Okay, along with, I think, some waves of maybe sort of more emotional, the emotional stuff that's to do with letting go. Now, I just want to throw in a quick add in here for anybody that is new to me and to the Moon Magic Tarot channel. I post these weekly moon forecasts, and aside from these, I post a lot of readings as well. But I worked I was an accredited counsellor, a psychotherapist for over 28 years. And my own calling is really to, I think, bridge the gap in a way between the spiritual knowledge that I have acquired and have learned it, in my own world, alongside the psychotherapeutic knowledge, the counselling knowledge, the emotional and psychological knowledge, which is a huge bank of information, which is incredibly helpful to have. Knowledge is power, and when you can understand what's happening to you, which is why readings are so helpful, they offer us a viewpoint that we sometimes need. It's the same with the moon. If we understand the influence and we have a day when we're having a major wobble or a major amazing day, and then we wonder why it isn't working the same way the following day, when you look at the moon influence and you understand how that affects you personally, then you have an amazing opportunity to navigate with much more awareness. It lifts almost like a layer of anxiety away from things, because you think, right, I know that's happening. I know why that's happening. And actually, it's not going to last. This will be fleeting. And, there'll be a different level of energy coming in tomorrow or in an hour or by the end of the day or whatever that will be. So all of these things, or all the things that I kind of feel very passionate about sharing, are all about giving you an additional layer of awareness that gives you empowerment. It gives you choices. It gives you a level of consciousness that actually lowers anxiety in the way that you navigate your world. So what I was going to say was I have a whole online library. It's a completely free resource. It's all about psychological and emotional information. I will put the link in the information box below. It's www.azemotionalhealth.com. It's a completely free resource. It's full of audios, videos, conversations, ranging from meditations as well, that help with emotional understanding and emotional release. All of these things are there. It's a completely free resource. It will always be free. It was my kind of parting gift to my profession. I wanted to sort of establish something solid as I left that world full time and started to work more in the realms that I do now. So I'm voicing that because if you are struggling at all with emotions, and this is going to be quite an emotional week, you will find resources there to help you. Likewise, I'm not here to plug my books, but I wrote a book called Mindfulness Meets Emotional Awareness. That book will teach you to transform some of the most difficult emotions that you have from sort of the lower resonance, the lower energy. There's always a higher and lower energetic in everything, the two sides of the same coin. It will help you to understand difficult emotions and how to transform them into a source of empowerment, really. It will also teach you how certain thinking patterns are triggered by certain emotions, and in turn, the same thinking patterns trigger more of the same emotions. We get into a cyclical kind of pattern. I'm throwing that in simply because I think we have quite an emotional week ahead. It doesn't mean it's a bad or a negative week. It's emotional because we're in a process of moving forwards, and it's very, very relevant to feel emotions as we shift and move through and beyond thinking patterns, circumstances, situations that are needing us to literally to move beyond, in certain instances to let go gracefully, but also to wholeheartedly embrace and take on the new. So, Super Souls, thank you for joining me for my little impromptu morning rant, I suppose. And I will now take you straight into the dailies and look through the literally day by day, the overall influence. And then I'm going to look at the actual astrological charts. Again, just pick out those things that I think are really glaringly relevant for the week ahead. For those of you that like to have a little bit more of an in-depth viewpoint, I'll put all the timestamps in the information box below. So if you want to come back to this video, you can miss this bit and go straight into the dailies, or the little bit that will tell you a bit more, bit of a tutorial, I suppose, in some ways. Thank you for joining me wholeheartedly. Biggest thanks in the world. It's such a privilege to be doing this stuff. I'm so honored by you guys joining me, and thank you for your comments, your likes, your shares, for subscribing. You guys are just awesome. And if you do want to get notification as soon as I post anything, whether it's a moon update, an impromptu kind of, wow, I really want to talk about this right now kind of video, or, you know, readings, whatever I am uploading, if you subscribe and press the little bell icon, they should come into your stream. Super Souls, tons of love, and see you in just a moment for the dailies. Welcome to the daily moon forecast for Saturday the 20th through to Saturday the 27th of August 2022. So on Saturday the 20th, the moon is in Gemini, and the lunar influence brings quite a steady start to the day. However, as the day progresses, there's a kind of a distinct change, and there's some strong energy going on in the background that could possibly affect communications. Now, the purpose of this is to bring to light things that we need to see and to let go of the old. But it could feel a bit overwhelming. So if something isn't clear to you, just take your time, and if needs be, do nothing. You will find clarity on another day. On Sunday, the moon is in Gemini for the most part of the day, but she enters a void of course period really late in the evening at 22:06 p.m. GMT. Now, I think the best way to use the energy today is for internal processing. There's quite a lot of sort of astrological background noise, as it were, but there is also real opportunity, I think, to find clarity and spiritual direction, but also opportunity for possibly some confusion and uncertainty. It's kind of like spiritual direction, clarity versus uncertainty, fogginess. So if you're not sure about anything, just sit back, observe, process, and let it unfold. You will be able to take really positive and powerful actions later in the week. On Monday, the moon enters Cancer at 29 minutes past midnight GMT, and we do actually see quite a significant shift in the overall flavour of the energy. And even though there's still a little bit of sort of feisty dynamics going on in the background, the lunar energy is really softening and nurturing. So slow down, feel your way into the shift, and have a gentle day. On Tuesday, the moon is in Cancer, and the lunar energy really invites stillness, mindfulness, and meditation. Do you know, whatever's going on in your world, I think if you get still and you meditate, at the very least, you're going to find calm and be able to rebalance yourself, literally mind, body, and soul. There's also, though, the potential, and a very powerfully positive one, that within your stillness, solutions and out-of-the-box ideas may just arrive that bring about new possibilities. So get still and just be. And even if your day is really, really busy, make time to at least have a stillness break, at least once or twice in the day if possible. Now, Wednesday, following a void of course period between 9:40 a.m. and 13:09 p.m. GMT, the moon will enter Leo. This is actually an incredibly emotionally deep and sensitive day. Whatever's going on in your world, it's going to be emotionally intensified. Now, I think the best way to use this energy is to find something or someone that you feel deeply about and channel your passions into this with positivity. Because if there are challenges, you're going to feel them more intensely from an emotional perspective. If things are going brilliantly, you're going to feel it more emotionally. But you have a choice in this. So find somewhere to channel your passions and use this emotionally deep energy to your advantage. On Thursday, the moon is in Leo, and the lunar energy really does bring emotional positivity. It's still an emotionally flavoured day, but whatever you channeled your energy into yesterday, if you really used it well, this is a day to honour your progress, celebrate where you are right now and everything you've been processing and working through over the last few weeks. Give yourself a pat on the back because there's been some intense stuff going on. On Friday, we see an incredibly huge void of course period. It starts at 6:54 a.m. and it literally goes through the whole day until 25 minutes past midnight the following morning. This is GMT time. Now, today's energy really honours transition and all of the emotions that come with it. So this is a day to lean into those feelings, reflect, feel, and make choices about your next step forwards to make your emerging dreams and desires real. If you use this day as a day of internal awareness to identify steps forwards, this will really help to work out what your wishes and your intentions are going to be when you set them for tomorrow's new moon. On Saturday, we have a new moon in Virgo. This will be at 01:16 a.m. Los Angeles, 04:16 New York, London is 09:16, Sydney 18:16 and Auckland 20:16. A new moon in Virgo will naturally lend itself well to areas of our lives that involve our physical health and well-being, our careers and workplace, and also our ability to be organised and efficient. It also connects to our capacity to be discerning within our relationships and to hold good boundaries. The overall energetics of this particular new moon support dynamic action. So to best align with this energy of the day and utilise it to its absolute fullest potential, make a commitment to yourself to honour the validity of your new moon wishes and also to declare a commitment to follow through with your new moon intentions. Wishes and intentions are different. Wishes are about our dreams and the things we desire and we want to manifest. Intentions are the things that we commit to doing, I intend to do, which then allows us to take the steps forwards to make those dreams real. So use this new moon energy to wish for the perfect work-life balance, one that will allow you to uphold a consistent flow of healthy energy that will bring wellness in your mind, body and soul. If you are looking to manifest a new career pathway, use the energy of this new moon to set wishes that invite a career position that will align you with your greatest contribution. If you are experiencing any form of dissatisfaction or conflict or challenge, particularly at work with either managers or subordinates, use this new moon to wish for a balanced resolution that values all parties. And if you happen to be someone who is crippled by perfectionism and you carry a raging inner critic inside of you, use this new moon to make wishes that ask to release these internal thinking patterns with ease. And in your new moon ceremonies or your new moon wishes, write them down and open yourself to receive the guidance that you need to highlight the next steps on your pathway of manifestation. And the best timing to write your 10 wishes and your 10 intentions is literally from the precise moment of the new moon and for the 8 hours afterwards. That's when the energy is at its most potent. Super Souls, I hope you have enjoyed the dailies. I'm now going to move into the sort of more tutorial or more deep daily look at the coming week for anyone who is interested in just learning more about this kind of stuff. Tons of love to you all and have an amazing week. And thank you so much to all of you who are liking, sharing and subscribing. And thank you for all your comments and donations as well through Patreon and through the super thanks in the comments. You are absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for joining me. Tons of love. So, Super Souls, this is the chart for Saturday the 20th. Now, I just want to highlight some of the background noise that I think is going to be going on for a few days. I feel like we can sort of divide this week almost into two, maybe almost three, but Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, the kind of stuff that's going on in the background is we have Lilith connecting to Chiron in a square. Now, a square is a slightly challenging connection. It's not without friction or discord. Chiron is the wounded healer. Chiron is a comet. Chiron is said to be bringing the opportunity for humanity to heal kind of from the inside out. Chiron in Aries is representing our ability to heal ourselves, and for that healing to then radiate into the world. So we're often healing things that are not just within the immediate context of our lives, but maybe generational traits as well, things that have been genetically passed down through our family line, that kind of stuff. So it's a very big deal. Lilith is the Black Moon Lilith. She speaks of injustice, inequality, the things that aren't fair, basically. So there's an opportunity here with this square. Remember, there's always a higher and a lower energetic. The higher energetic in a square is that friction gives us traction. Discord gives us an opportunity to see what we need to do. I think this is an interesting piece of background astro-energetics. The moon will channel into this at a certain point in the week, but this is going on in the background for all of us. This is the overall astro energy where we are seeing issues of inequality, injustice, lack of integrity being brought to the surface, with the opportunity for us to heal things so they are no longer continued in the way that maybe previously things have been done. Let's move on to a different connection. Now, we also simultaneously in the background, we have Uranus and the North Node. Uranus is the great awakener. He's also the energy that brings us out of the box solutions, higher minded ways of seeing things. The nodes speak of destiny, our karmic pathway, the things that actually need to happen. It's that kind of element of the universe bringing us what we need and not necessarily what we want. This is very powerful, it's ongoing, and this is continual. So this karmic element, this karmic time frame is very much around us and will be around us for quite a while yet. So this is hovering in the background in a very important way. Another connection for just a few days, very important, is that we have Mercury opposite Neptune. Now, Mercury is our planet of communication, and this is partly what's bringing us some of the discord in communication, potentially over the weekend. It's very interesting because I think the higher and the lower energetic of this, particularly if I just also can show you that Neptune is not only opposite Mercury here, but Neptune is sextiling Pluto. Pluto is calling for rebirth. Pluto wants us to transform. Now, both Pluto and Neptune are in retrograde, which means the energy is much more reflective. Now, Neptune can leave us feeling a little bit out at sea, a little bit confused. Sometimes it means that we can be in a circumstance where we're not seeing things clearly. Sometimes that could be somebody literally pulling the wool over our eyes. It could also be us pulling the wool over our own eyes. You know, maybe we're holding somebody in an idealized position and not really seeing the truth of things. The energy to Pluto is very positive. It's very flowing. So there's a great deal of, there's an underlying emphasis on seeing things clearly, even if we're having difficult conversations with others or with ourselves, or we are feeling a bit foggy. There's a real opportunity to do something with this in terms of transformation. So these are the sort of background energies. The Uranus node thing, the karmic stuff, is constant at the moment. It is there in the background all the time. The other things that I've just spoken about are here and in place, I think, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and coming into Tuesday. Now, the moon herself on Saturday is actually connecting very favorably with both Venus and Jupiter. So her energy is diminishing. We've just come through the last quarter moon. We're still very much in a reflective space. I think this is a time when we are beginning to look inwards for solutions. Jupiter is a very expansive energy, again in retrograde. So lots of internal reflection that opens doorways and windows of opportunity to see things differently. And this is all about seeing the world through love, compassion, bringing things back into balance, understanding how we can navigate self-care alongside the care of others. That's the energy of Venus here. So this is around for the weekend. There's discordant energy in the background, but we can lean into the higher energetic. However, the moon is bringing us a lovely energy on Saturday that helps to sort of balance everything out. So let's have a little look at Sunday's chart. So on Sunday, we can see that the moon here trines with Saturn. Also in retrograde, there's so much retrograde energy around. We are really very much in a space of where things may not feel as though they're moving forwards, but there's opportunity to do the internal work. Now, Saturn is known as Father Time, the planet of karma. He's in Aquarius. He holds that higher vision for humanity at the moment. And the energy of Saturn is asking us to restructure, to recognize both our limitations and our fullest potential. Now, a trine is a beautiful flowing energy. The moon adds to this. Now, as you will see from the bigger chart, the other energies that I've spoken about are still, perhaps those that are a little discordant are still around. But the moon is lending her energy really favorably on Sunday to sort of internal processing of experiences in a way that allow us to work out how we can actually turn our experiences of learning into a real sort of almost like step-by-step progress forwards. We may not take the steps yet, but we can begin to see how we're going to do that, what those steps might actually be. Now, later in the day on Sunday, we see some really interesting input from the moon because she ties in with the energy of the Neptune-Mercury opposition. Also, as Mercury moves around, Mercury himself actually connects up here with Pluto. So we've got some really interesting dynamics. Now, if I click on the moon, you can see that the moon is squaring Neptune and squaring Mercury, still trining Saturn. Mercury is now trining Pluto, wanting rebirth. Neptune is still connected to Pluto, wanting rebirth. The moon is now squaring Neptune. So we've got this sort of additional lunar energy tying in with some discordant energy, some friction. Again, friction can bring us traction, but with real positivity coming in from Pluto, wanting to bring about transformation. So I feel this is a really interesting dynamic. If you are on Sunday as the day progresses, feeling as though you're not quite ready for a conversation, you sort of feel like you begin to see what maybe you need to see, but you don't yet feel completely clear. If you feel a bit of a push-pull, like an urge to make something happen, and yet you don't feel ready, I would suggest holding back. If the timing isn't quite right, as we move through the week, there will be days where the energy is more fluent and more flowing, and there will be greater opportunity to move forwards. On Monday, the moon will enter Cancer, and for the best part of the day, she's not lending her influence anywhere. She's actually not connected to any of the other planetary stuff that's going on. There is still the background noise, as we already have seen going on here. There's also a new and interesting dynamic coming in where Mars and the Sun are in a square. Now, again, this is really interesting because the Sun brings us that creative spark of energy, the desire to move things forwards, the energy to make stuff happen. It's very energized, very assertive when it's connected with Mars. Mars wants to be moving everything forward. Mars is very fiery, again, very assertive. A square could mean that you get a little bit crotchety if something isn't actually moving forwards as you would like it to. Now, interestingly enough, because the moon is not connected to any of the other planets and she's in beautiful, nurturing Cancer, I think she's really going to soften that energetic, almost allow us to navigate our frustrations from a place of greater awareness. Now, as the day progresses, the moon actually then connects in with Jupiter. And even though it's a square, this is a connection that often brings us quite a good feeling. It allows us to feel sort of motivated in a, it allows us to feel expansive in a motivated kind of way. So I actually think on Monday we're going to see, even though the background noise is still going on, it feels for me as if the pressure is off, as it were, or beginning to lift. And whatever we have been seeing, being shown, we've had an opportunity to sort of begin to process and internalize it and begin to see steps forwards, even if that was a bit of a struggle. So we do see Monday as becoming, I think, a bit of an indicator of a shift in energy in terms of that background noise. On Tuesday, as the moon moves through Cancer, she's actually going to connect in with Lilith. And Lilith is the planet, as I said already, that represents injustice, the need to fix unfairness, already connected with Chiron here. Chiron is also now trining, well, I say Chiron is trining Venus, actually Venus is in fact trining Chiron. So very, very interesting. The moon's energy is diminishing. She's getting smaller and smaller. She's inviting reflection. Venus is inviting harmony and wanting us to navigate with thought and care and bring things back into balance. So again, any of the unfairness, injustices, the stuff of the past that we have seen potentially dredged up over the last week or so with a view to create change, I think we can begin to see what we need to do to actually to balance things out. We ourselves can bring ourselves into a space of really significant sort of, I would say, stillness, reflection. It's one of those days when I think if you meditate regularly, this is a day when that meditation is going to pay dividends. If you meditate, you're going to get the answers. You're going to, at the very least, you'll get still and you'll become calm. Interestingly, later in the day on Tuesday, the moon also actually sextiles, which is a lovely energy. She basically connects in with Uranus, the Great Awakener, and the nodes. So, as I said, if you are meditating, I think the answers are very likely to arrive. At the very least, you'll be able to calm yourself, see out-of-the-box solutions, settle yourself down, hold that higher vision and that higher purpose, and you may well find that you just, the answers just come to you. On Tuesday, we also see a very distinct shift in the background noise. Mercury is no longer in opposition to Neptune. In fact, Mercury is trining Pluto, who is sextiling Neptune. So we begin to see a distinct shift. There's no longer a discord in communications, potentially, but a flow. And that flow is very transformational and holds connections with sort of our spiritual pathway, our emotional awareness. So this is a lovely shift in energy. Likewise, we have this Sun-Mars square, and even though this is discordant, it can be a little bit challenging. We might feel a bit frustrated by things not moving forwards. I think this is beautifully counterbalanced by the shift with Neptune, and so this energetic is far more likely if you can lean into the higher energetic, listen to your frustrations and then think carefully about how you can act on them in a way that shows awareness. And you can be assertive without being kind of aggressive, without being frustrated. Real assertiveness, real empowerment recognizes that, you yourself are the source of your own power. And, we don't have power over others. We have power over ourselves. So I think this has the potential to be a very empowering day. So let's look at Wednesday, because I think this is the day when I think we begin to see the emotionality that I was thinking. It's almost like we are adjusting to the realization of the changes that we're creating. adjusting to our new awareness. Now, there's still lots of opportunity around. Venus, in terms of her own movement, is now not only connected favorably into the healing energy of Chiron, but she's now tuning into the energy of the nodes, and she will tune into the energy of Uranus, the Great Awakener, too. So this is that sort of fate, destiny, synchronicity kind of element to what's going on here. The moon herself is fueling some really interesting dynamics as well. So we've still got the background noise of the sun and Mars, where we might feel frustrated that things aren't moving forwards, but the higher energetic is to be assertive. The moon is now trining Neptune. Whenever the moon and Neptune get together, we are talking big emotions. The moon is also opposite Pluto. This is also signifying big emotions, often a deep dive. So I would say on Wednesday, be very aware of your emotions and of your emotionality. If your buttons are pressed, in fact, let's just say it's a really sensitive day. It could be a bit moody. It's just going to be deep, emotionally deep, and depending on what is going on in the unique circumstances of your own world. You may feel very passionate about something. Now, that passion could be diving into the depths of processing transition, or it could be diving into the depths of something you want to stand up and fight for. It could be diving into the depths of something new in your world that you just want to embrace and go for. But however you approach Wednesday, I think it is an emotionally sensitive day. And I actually think the best way to channel the energy is to find something to fuel and direct our passions into. Okay, if there's anything that is that you absolutely love and adore, engage with it, because it's going to support you in channeling this energy, this sensitivity, and this passion at its absolute best. Now, on Thursday, I think we're seeing some really lovely dynamics. I think they're still potentially emotional, but emotional in a way that feels really positive. It's like we can celebrate the outcome of almost like the karmic work and the karmic outcome of everything we've been doing over the last week or so. The moon, as she moves into Leo and moves through Leo, is actually going to trine Jupiter. Jupiter wants us to expand. And with the moon in Leo, I think this is, a trine is a lovely energetic. This is a day to really celebrate something. So whatever you have been channeling your passions into, this is a day to celebrate and acknowledge the way that you have been navigating transition and the energy. It's like the day that we land. We've been busy seeing things, adjusting things, working things through, and suddenly we think, wow, we got here. Look what we've done. This is amazing. I think this is a day of major celebration. And if we just bring back the chart, given that Venus is still tuning in with the nodes and with Chiron, I think it is potentially a day where we really see that level of kind of clarity, breakthrough, celebration. Within this energetic, I still think it's potentially quite emotional. When you get to something and you can almost breathe a sigh of relief, or you think, wow, I did it. I've made it through. That's amazing. I've actually done this. Gosh, I can't believe that worked out. It's got that kind of flavor to it. Or I can't believe the universe gave me that opportunity. It's got that flavor to it. So still quite emotional, but I think powerfully so in a really positive way. On Friday, the moon actually joins Venus, so tunes in with that karmic energy and with that healing energy. Now, interestingly enough, she is diminishing, as we've said. We are moving towards a new moon, so there's a lot of internal reflection going on. When the chart moves a little bit further forwards as the day progresses on Friday, the moon then actually ties into a really interesting dynamic. She sits opposite Saturn, Father Time, Father Karma, wanting us to restructure, wanting us to accept our limitations, but also step into our potential, let go of things that no longer serve us, embrace our life lessons. And opposition is a little bit discordant. You know, sometimes this can bring about sadness, again, an emotional day. The moon is also squaring Uranus, the Great Awakener. Uranus is the planet that brings us those higher-minded solutions, but sometimes brings us kind of not necessarily what we want, but what we need. So I think this is a day of significant sort of, I would say, self-realization. It's a good day to review because we have a new moon on Saturday, and I always think the day before a new moon, the energy really does invite us to have enter a space of reflection in anticipation of the energy of the new moon when we're starting a new phase and a new cycle of evolution, of manifestation of our lives. But this is quite interesting, this dynamic, because it can bring about sadness. It can bring about self-realization, but within that, it does allow us to then see ourselves as the source of our own empowerment. I also think this is a day when, if you have just had a day of incredible celebration, of being able to say, do you know what, I did it, I've landed, this is wow, I can't believe we've achieved this. This is the sort of day when, again, your energy may feel lower because you had a day of celebration the day before. If I liken it to, the analogy that comes to mind is, it's a bit like moving house. If you move house, so much energy has to go into it. There's loads and loads of stress in the build up to moving house. You know, will it happen? Won't it happen? Will everything run smoothly? On the day you expend a ton of energy, you then land and think, wow, I'm here, and it's a big celebration. And then the day after, you kind of feel flat because you've expended so much energy that you need to reground yourselves. This is that kind of flavor, I think, to the day. The great thing about it is, with Saturn in opposition to the moon, is there is a real opportunity, and again, tuning in with Uranus, to be able to really get still and think about where you go from here, and with everything that you have been experiencing, with potential transitions, shifts, changes, many of which will be internal, not just external, to really then think about, especially with the internal changes, how you can actually consolidate those internal changes and start to move forwards and make things real. Saturn really invites us to make things real. So it's a really interesting day. Going back to the library that I spoke about at the very beginning of this video, my little morning rant, right at the beginning, I spoke about the library, the A-Z of emotional health. There's a page in that library called The Psychology of Emotion, and there are two videos that I think are quite relevant to this week. One is called The Wobble of Change, which is all about the emotions we experience through transition, even if it's a transition we want, embracing the new. And the other is The Sadness of Moving Forwards, I think it's called. And it talks about exactly the flavor of this. It's the kind of sadness we feel that even when something is changing and it's for the better, we still get a level of sadness as we move through that transition. Those two videos, I think, for me, are summarizing something of the energy, the overall energy of the movement in the energetics this week. On Saturday, we have a beautiful new moon in Virgo. Interesting dynamics, because the moon is now going to be squaring that Mars energy, that get up and go, that impetus, that assertiveness. This is actually an amazing new moon to use the energy if you are someone who is working with wishes and intentions on your new moon. They are different. Wishes are our desires. We set them on the new moon because we wish to hold that vision. We wish to hold a picture of where we want to go. Intentions are different because they are the sort of the masculine counterpart of a wish. An intention is something that we set because it's kind of, I intend to do. So I think the best way to channel this energy, this passionate energy of this Mars energy coming into this new moon, connecting with the moon and the sun, is to actually set intentions of with specific goals I intend to do. So if you set a wish, you know, I wish for X, Y, Z, you then set intentions that say, I intend to do X, Y, Z to initiate the steps needed to make this possible. I think this is really one of the best ways of navigating this connection. Let's also just check out another dynamic that shifts, because Venus has now moved forwards and she is now squaring Uranus. She's still tuning into, she's moved a little bit further through that energy of the nodes, but she's still tuning in with the karmic influence there. But she's very strongly connected to Uranus. So again, things can happen to shake us up, to bring us what we need rather than what we want, but interestingly, to bring us higher-minded solutions that are designed to achieve balance in opposition to Saturn. The Venus energy is all about doing what we need to do to create harmony, to create balance, to restructure our lives, to hold the higher perspective. This is what the overall dynamic and energy of Venus is doing in the background. So although it's not entirely flowing, I think there is great positivity in this connection. And of course, this is sitting there in the background whilst our beautiful moon connects with our wonderful sun and invites us to set those clear intentions, to channel our energy into motivated and assertive actions that move our wishes forwards. Super Souls, thank you so much for joining me this week for the lunar update, the lunar forecast of the week, and for this part of the video where we've looked in more depth at what's going on. I hope for those of you that are really passionate about this kind of stuff, it's giving you some information that is useful and helpful to you. If you want something that's more in depth, there are a ton of amazing astrologers posting on YouTube, so do go check those out. You know, we are so lucky to be able to access so much information. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for liking, sharing, subscribing. If you'd like to get notification of any of my videos as soon as I upload them, if you subscribe and press the little bell icon, they should come into your stream. And thank you so much to those of you who have been giving back through the super thanks, and also to my ongoing supporters who fund all of my work through supporting me through Patreon. Just a huge thank you to you all. And thank you just to everyone for joining me here. Tons of love to you all. Have an amazing week.